Hi, college. Okay, this is just to summarize things that we have learned so far regarding diatonic triads. So let's read together. Triads are chords consisting of 3 tones of superimposed thirds. There are 4 types of triads, which include major triads, minor triads, augmented triads, and diminished triads. Major triads consist of the first, third, and fifth tones of a major scale, and we know that major triads in a major scale or major key are based off of the tonic triad, the subdominant triad, and the dominant triad. Minor triads consist of the first, third, and fifth tones of a minor scale. To convert major triads to augmented triads, either raise the fifth 1/2 step or lower the root and the third 1/2 step. Minor triads can be converted to diminished triads either by lowering the fifth 1/2 step or by raising the root and the third 1/2 step. We also know that triads can be built on each degree of a major or minor scale. We also know that we are using the harmonic minor form. Here is a chart, a triad quality chart. The first column shows the scale degree. The second column is the major key, and the last column is the harmonic minor key. For example, scale degree 1 in a major key is a major triad. For example, scale degree 3 in harmonic minor is an augmented triad. Note that both major keys and harmonic minor keys have diminished triads on scale degree 7. We also know that Roman numerals are used to identify the scale degrees on which triads are built. Various forms of Roman numerals are used to indicate the triad quality. Here are the major triads, and here are the harmonic minor triads. Special note with the harmonic minor triads: remember to insert accidentals where necessary for building triads in harmonic minor. Note in this example of harmonic minor that we happen to be in C minor. Since we're using the harmonic form, we need to raise the B flat subtonic to a B natural leading tone. When we do that, the 3 chord becomes augmented. When we do that, the 5 chord becomes major, and the 7 chord becomes diminished. So that's just a quick review of everything that we've done up to this point. And now we're going to be talking about triad inversions. Sounds exciting. Let's take a look. Okay, I'm going to draw a basic triad. If you would like to draw this with me, I'm in treble clef. Basic meaning no accidentals. There's my root, there's my third, and there's my fifth. Now I can ask you this very important question. How many times am I able to invert this triad before returning it to root position? See if you can figure that out. Well, we call the verb invert in music means that we can take the low note and raise it up 1 octave. So why don't we do that? If I take this F and I put it up here and keep the other tones the same, I have inverted this triad once. And if I take the new low note A and move it up 1 octave while keeping the other tones the same, then I have inverted it a second time. Lastly, if I take the low note here and move it up the octave while keeping the other tones the same, notice that I've gone back to root position. So the answer to this question is that I am able to invert this triad 2 times before returning to root position. And I will label the opening triad as RP, meaning root position. And I will label the last triad as RP because we're back to root position. It's just an octave higher. Okay, let's go on. So now we're going to talk about triads in first and second inversion. Let's take a look at figure A. Figure A we call a root position triad. More specifically, figure A shows a C major triad in root position. The root of the triad is C, and it is the lowest note of the triad. I will label the C as an R for root. The third is the E, I'll label it as a 3, and the G is the 5th. Let's take a look at figure B. Figure B shows a C major triad in first inversion. The root of the triad is moved 1 octave higher and is no longer the lowest note. This creates what we call inversion. Now, the third of the C major triad, which I will label as a 3, is the lowest tone. Key point: when the third of the triad is the lowest tone of the triad is said to be in first inversion. Let's take a look at figure C. Figure C also shows a C major triad in second inversion. The root and the third of the triad are both moved one octave higher, and the C and the E, which are the root and the third, are no longer the lowest notes. What is the lowest note? The fifth of the triad, which is a G. Key point: when the fifth of a triad is the lowest tone of the triad is said to be in second inversion. A triad is in root position when the lowest tone is the root. Let me label my F major snowman triad. F is my root, A is the third, and C is the fifth. I know that that is a root position triad simply because it consists of two superimposed thirds. When a triad consists of two superimposed thirds, the triad is said to be in root position. If the tones of a triad are arranged so that the root is not the lowest voice, the triad is what we call inverted. It's important to note that root position triads produce a succession of thirds. In other words, if the triad looks like an ordinary snowman, then the triad is in root position. If the triad looks like a severed snowman, then it will be a triad in either first or second inversion. Let's take a look at this first example, which I am outlining now. This is an F major triad. The root is the lowest tone. Therefore, it is in root position. Let's take a look at the triad I am outlining now. The third of the triad is the lowest note. When the third of the triad is the lowest note, we have a triad in first inversion. The root is all the way at the top. Let's take a look at the triad I'm outlining now. The fifth of the triad is the lowest note. When the fifth of the triad is the lowest note, the triad is said to be in second inversion. There are no third inversions for triads because triads consist of only 3 tones. A triad is inverted by placing either the third or fifth as the what note. Hopefully you said lowest. Here's a view from the piano. I'm going to pick any major or minor triad and we'll place colored dots on the keys for the root, first inversion, and second inversion triads. So I'm going to pick D minor. So I'm going to have my root, my third, and my fifth. This triad is said to be in root position. If I take the D and I move the D up 1 octave to here, while keeping the third and the fifth as is, the triad is now said to be in first inversion because the third, or the F, is now the lowest tone. Let's go one step further. If A is my lowest tone, and I moved both the D and the F up 1 octave, then the triad is said to be in second inversion, because the fifth of the triad, the A, is the lowest tone. Now we're going to write the following triads in root position, first inversion, and second inversion. For the questions in treble clef, supply accidentals where needed. For the questions in bass clef, we need to write key signatures. We should also label each triad we notate as root, first, or second inversion. So let's build the G major triad together. First comes root position. G is the root, B is the third, D is the fifth. Let's label that as RP. We could take the G, move it up 1 octave, while leaving the third and the fifth as is, and we've just created the G major triad in first inversion. Let's invert it one more time to make second inversion. We could take the B and move the B up 1 octave, while keeping the D the same and the G the same. And now we have a second inversion G major triad. Take a moment to complete the treble clef examples. We're looking for D minor, root position, first inversion, second inversion, E major, root position, first inversion, second inversion, and E flat minor, root position, first inversion, second inversion. Please reread the directions. It says for the questions in treble clef, supply accidentals where needed. If you are finished, please go back and circle the root in every triad you just built. If you are finished with that, please go back and label each note you drew as R for root, 3 for third, and 5 for fifth of each triad. College, please check your work and see how you did. Okay, let's move on to bass clef. Let's reread the directions carefully. Write the following triads in root, first, and second inversion. For the questions in bass clef, write key signatures. Label each triad as root, first, or second. Let's do the first example together. We are in the key of F major. Why are we in F major? Because we see a capital F followed by a colon, indicating that the key is major, and more specifically, F major. Let's draw the key signature. We need to build the 4 chord in F major. We know the 4 chord is major. How do we know that? We know that because we've memorized, perhaps, that the subdominant triad in major keys is major, or we can clearly look at the Roman numeral and see that it's a capital IV, which means the triad is major. Now that we have a key signature, we're going to build the root position, subdominant triad. Then we're going to build the triad in first inversion. And then we're going to build the triad in second inversion, just like this. We do not need to supply accidentals for all the B flats because we have a key signature. The second and third example may be a little bit more difficult. We're in the key of A minor and we need to build the 2 diminished triad in root position, then invert it to first inversion, and then invert it again to second inversion. In the third example, we're in the key of G minor. Don't forget to put your key signature. And recall that we're using harmonic minor form for minor keys. We need to build in root position, first inversion, and second inversion the 3 augmented chord in the key of G minor. And the last example, we're in the key of D flat, and we need to build the major 5 chord. Good luck, college. More time? No problem. If you're finished, please go back and do what we did in the first line in treble clef. That is, circle the root in every triad you drew. And then when you're finished with that, you can label each tone of each triad as R for root, 3 for third, and 5 for fifth. Just a couple more minutes and then we'll go over our answers. College, please begin checking your work and please see if I made any errors and we disagree somewhere along the way. Okay, college, please stop work and let's take a look at the answers and see how you did. I want to draw your attention to the bass clef third measure where we have the 3 augmented. Okay, first of all, hopefully your key signatures are correct for the bass clef ones. Right, F major is just a B flat. A minor, there's nothing in the key signature. G minor, well, you have to think of what the relative major for G minor is. That's B flat. So we have a B flat and an E flat in the key signature. And D flat major is 5 flats. So take a look at the G minor 3 augmented chord. I'm just going to highlight something for you so you can see. I want you to be clear about this, that this F sharp here, okay, is not part of the key signature because we're using harmonic minor. So you're not going to have a key signature with B flat, E flat, and F sharp in it. The F sharp is considered the accidental because remember, in harmonic minor we're raising the leading tone, and that's why we have F sharp. When we do that, we create the augmented triad. So hopefully you did okay. I also want to point out something that some students in the past have pointed out, which makes it easier to determine first inversion and second inversion triads. If we look carefully at all of these first inversion triads, we can see that the root is the top note all by itself. And if we look at the second inversion triads, we can see 2 notes that are at the top together. So students often remember this, that a triad is in first inversion when they see 1 note alone at the top, and second inversion when they see 2 notes together at the top. So I'm just throwing it out there for you. That might help you in your process of determining triads and their inversions. All right, let's just read this note at the bottom before we go on. The questions asked in bass clef provide a specific major or minor key, followed by a Roman numeral indicating which triad of the key to spell. So there will be times where you will be asked to notate triads in root position, first inversion, and second inversion using Roman numerals. So that's why we practiced this exercise today. So hopefully you checked your work and you did okay. If you are struggling with this or would like some extra help, I'm always available. Let's continue. Okay, to figure out inversions, what you'll need to do is rearrange the tones mentally in order to locate the root. In other words, look at the triad. If the triad's not a snowman, where you have a line, 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 or a space, 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 then the triad is an inversion. Clearly, in the first example here, the triad is inverted. In the second measure, which I'll circle, the triad seems to be in root position. And in the third example, the triad is also inverted, like the first one. So what we have to do on this page is, number 1, circle the root in each triad. After you rearrange the tones mentally in your head in order to locate the root. Once you have done that, then you can identify the triad by its root name, because remember, triads get their name from the root. After that, we should determine the quality of the triad. In other words, rearrange them so they're in superimposed thirds, so you can figure out the exact quality, whether it's major, minor, diminished, or augmented. Finally, step 4 is to label the inversion of the triad. And we'll do that by either writing RP if it's in root position, or first if it's in first inversion, or second if it's in second inversion. So let's take a look at the first example. And I'm going to reveal my thought process right now. This is what I thought when I first took a look at these notes. This triad is not in root position. Triads are built in the thirds. This is a severed snowman. I have circled the root D. DFA is root third fifth. This triad is D minor. I know it's minor because F is not in the key of D major. F, or the third, is the lowest tone. This triad is in first inversion. What I'd like you to do is attempt the second measure and the third measure right now. Okay, let's check our work and see how we did. For the second one, you did not really have to rearrange any tones mentally in your head because we do have two superimposed thirds already. So clearly we're able to find the root, which happens to be F sharp. When I compare the superimposed thirds, I realized that the F sharp is the root, up to the third is an A, that's a minor third, and then A to C sharp is a major third. Therefore, this triad is minor, and this triad is RP, or root position. In the last example, I rearranged the tones mentally in my head to determine that E is the root, because there's E, then G sharp, and then B, which give me my superimposed thirds. Once I rearranged the tones in my head, I realized that E to G sharp is a major third, and G sharp to B is a minor third. Therefore, the triad is major. Specifically, the triad is E major because E is the root. This triad is in second inversion because the B, or the fifth, is the lowest note of the triad. Hopefully you did well with that. Okay, college, we're coming to an end here with our video today. Let's review what we learned today. See if you can fill in the blanks to these questions. When the triad appears as two superimposed thirds, the triad is said to be in, hopefully you said, root position. When the third of a triad is the lowest note, the triad is said to be in, that would be first inversion. When the fifth of a triad is the lowest note, the triad is said to be in second inversion. We're going to continue our study of triads and inversions. This concludes today's video. Thanks for watching, college. Make it a great day.